Welcome to Real Conversations with the Shop with Pete, Josh, and Dave.
Hey, everybody.
Hello.
Hello.
So this is our first episode.
Yes, it is. Figure out what this is about and where we want to go with it, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
What our goal is. Who
Well,
we are.
Who we are. Speaking that you guys want to, we'll introduce ourselves and.
All right, I guess I'll go first. Pete Twerk. I've been teaching for over 20 years at Coopersville Middle School. Graduate of CMU from way back in the 90s. I didn't start teaching right away, so I didn't start until 2001. I worked in construction for 10 years and just in machining too. I also did some machining here and there for a few years after graduating from Central. In industrial arts, that was my major and minor education.
I'm Dave Weeks. I have been teaching now, 17 years. Oh, it doesn't seem like that long. I have taught middle school and high school at public schools at a career center, 2 career centers. I've taught wood shop, metal shop, auto, computers, programming, engineering, CAD. I'm a graduate of Eastern 2002 and then did their master's program. What else? Yeah, I try everything fun and new.
Awesome. And my name is Josh Burkhardt, and I am a graduate of Central Michigan University. And I taught for 5 years till the downturn in the economy, and I then took a leave of absence from teaching and have been working in government since then. And I was a do-it-all. Also, there was 2 of us. One taught CAD, and I taught everything else from woods to metals to automotive to electric to middle school to you name it. If I could think of it, they let me do it. So I had a lot of fun with that. And I did get into some drafting at the end before I moved on to another career. And I actually was recruited into MITES early in my college career. I think it was my very first industrial arts class that I took was actually from Doc Lutz. Shout out to Doc Lutz. And he was the one that got me started on the road down to where I am today with MITES. So I'd be interested to hear where you guys got your spark to join MITES and what the interest level was there and how you got into it.
Well, going back, my high school shop teacher was actually a former president of MITES. And then back in the day, before both of your guys' time, we used to actually give out metal plaques like that symbol of Josh behind it, made out of aluminum. And at that time, a lot of the different high schools poured them in their foundry. And at Urbana High School, where I graduated from, we actually did some of those. So that's kind of, I don't know if he really put a lot of kids' projects in, because I don't remember stuff like that, but I know he was involved in MITES. And then when I was at Muskegon Community for my 2 years, we actually hosted the regional at Muskegon Community. So I had a little bit of involvement there. And then I went after that same year, I actually went up to Traverse City for the state conference. And I helped judge up there at the state conference. So that would have been, I want to say like the spring of 88. Maybe something like that. So, and then of course, yeah, when I got to CMU, Doc Lutz, Doc Mason, I don't think he was there when you got there, Josh, but both of them were very involved with MITES. Oh, and Gilchrist, was Gilchrist still there?
Yes, he was.
40. Yep. And all 3 of them were actually very involved in MITES. And so that's where it got started too, from a lot more when I got to CMU. I guess is where mine actually started. So yeah. So I've been the MITES member longer than all of you, but there was a 10-year period or I wasn't. Late 80s and early 90s. So yeah.
So I got started just kind of doing the student competition. I didn't even hear about it in college, down at Eastern. It wasn't until what, my third school in Dearborn, because I spent a few years bouncing around between all the middle schools. And when I got up to the high school and had to learn the new requirements for the state certified programs, that's when I got involved with mites and spent a couple of years just entering projects and kind of doing doing the basics to meet those state requirements, and then just slowly got more and more involved and got sucked in.
Yep.
That seems to be how it works with a lot of us.
Yeah. Yep.
Actually, Josh was my first real contact with mites. It was one of our conventions up at the Lansing Center, and I was asking him something about the website because you were at like that table in the hallway there, and then I made the mistake of saying, "Hey, I can help you with that," and I think that was it for me. I was then embedded in.
I remember being kind of the first time I think back when I met you, Dave, was actually at Saginaw.
Yeah, it might have been.
I remember, I think then we have some like roundtable meetings. I remember we were back in behind.
Yeah, there was Michelle was there, wasn't she?
I'm not
Because there was
She-
something where we kind of had to wind through the catacombs to find to a spot.
Yeah.
Yeah, we were in
And
like a little open area. I remember it was just
Yeah.
kind of because I know there was another meeting going on because Brian Hatchett was talking with a couple of different people and had students in a room for the student leadership. He was talking to some teachers and some kids about that. And Brian Hatchett is a big person within the FFA organization. So,
Yep.
and that's where Chuck Boyer, I believe, had gotten in contact with him to talk with about student leadership. So, but yeah.
And that's part of what we talked about when we were looking at starting a podcast was how do we get the stories from around the state of members, and we wanted to record them. So for all of you in podcast land out there, we that was one of the things that we said we wanted to do, and this would be a great way to do it, would be to bring on the people to this show that have been instrumental in mites over the years, especially those that are retired or retiring, so we can get their stories, we can get the history, we can preserve that information, and also the knowledge and the skills that they have, and just the wisdom, because they have been doing this so much longer than even the three of us, and we just want to learn from them and grow from them also. So that was part of what we talked about. What are some of the other things you guys can think of or reasons why we wanted to start this?
Well, too, I think we wanted even people like maybe there's some former students who have their own business now, whether it be a construction, machining, it could even be a design company or whatever. If their instructor was involved in mites, what and basically what their take was on industrial arts. I think that's another big thing is that the importance of industrial arts and how it's over the years, how it's kind of went away due to some things. And now it's kind of got more of an importance coming back in a way, I guess, too.
Yeah.
I mean,
the biggest problem is we can't find people to teach it anymore.
Right. But I think and I think some of it from the traditional high school, it's gotten more focused on CTE, which that's a whole nother podcast in itself. That's another episode. I can give you my thoughts on that later. So yeah.
I'm sorry, Pete.
Nope, I'm done.
I was just going to say, I think, there's not, we're kind of a hidden community of education, of podcasts. There's not any other podcasts for what we teach. There's not a lot of educational podcasts anymore. But there are a fair number of us out there. and just giving us one more avenue to connect with each other and hear things that are going on, whether they're in our region, in our state, in our country. There's still a fair number of us out there, but we tend to just be in our shops and do our things and kind of break that isolation, even if it's just connecting with 3 other people on a podcast. Feel free, everybody, leave us comments, leave us likes, subscribe, all that, and let's build a community here.
Yeah, and if you know people from outside of Michigan, other states, I mean, I'd really like to connect with teachers from all over. I mean, and invite them on, talk with them, get their thoughts on things, What's it
Yeah,
like
see
in
what's-
their state with shop programs, the 3 of us know what it's like here in Michigan, but what is it like in Ohio and Louisiana, Texas, what are they?
California,
Yeah,
Hawaii,
California, yeah.
Germany, other places.
Yeah, are there shop, is it small? Is it,
What's
so
it
I'd
like
like
in
to
your
see that.
area?
Yep.
Yeah.
And I know too, I mean, and too, not just, it's kind of like when I think of like the 3 of us, like I teach, Josh, you taught in a more rural district than I did. Breckenridge is rural farming community. I teach in it's rural, but I'm the halfway point on 96 between Muskegon and Grand Rapids. So, but it's still a farming community, but it's also got industry and different things. And like Dave, you're, the suburbs of Detroit, right? So how, what's the 3 of us, how it's different in ways of the students that we teach, and Josh, that you taught. And I would almost feel like some of my kids were a lot like some of your kids, just because of the country, that atmosphere that we have, the rural community.
Yeah, you can't call yourself rural until you have drive your tractor to school day.
Well, we have that too.
Mhm.
Yep. Hey, look
I
at your
want to
face.
experience that.
You have to come, yeah. Okay, you have to come to Coopersville in the spring. It's drive your tractor to school day. And a couple of times, my niece, she actually drove the combine to school.
Those are
And then-
big things.
So yeah, yep.
Huh.
So yeah, that's what you get when you know you're in a rural community.
That's right. But we have such a diverse experiences between us, like you were saying, Pete, that we wanted to be able to share those different experiences and get and learn from other people of those experiences. So podcasting is such a great way to do it, and that's what we're hoping to do here, is just to learn and grow from each other.
Yeah.
So Dave, you got a haircut today?
I did. It was
Awesome.
looking like poofy and all goofy. I needed a haircut last month.
Well, you're looking good, man. Looking
Yeah,
Thank
handsome.
you.
Haircuts are fine. I try to go once a month, but sometimes it gets beyond. It goes, like 6 weeks. And then the kids, as I always funny, I'll come to class the next day, or that on Monday. Hey, Mr. Torque, you got a hair? Did you get a haircut? No, I didn't get a haircut. I just took I pulled it and I cut it. That's what I did. Like.
That's why my goatee's so short.
Yeah, my goatee short, because I pulled it really hard and it just kind of. I always get that. Oh, did you get a haircut? No, I didn't get a haircut. This looks like it.
Or that one kid, well, maybe you should have.
Yeah. But then the kids all have a hard time believing that when I was younger, I had a fro. I couldn't grow straight hair. My hair is not
Wow.
straight. I could
Okay.
not grow a mullet. I couldn't grow nothing. My hair just, yeah. And you could not I could not comb I had to comb, I'd use a brush. I could not comb my hair. It's the only way I could get something through my hair. It was such tight curls and just stuff. Yeah, it was just a mop. Oh yeah.
So
I get that.
as we get older, for whatever reason, the hair doesn't grow as fast as it used to, and it doesn't grow as thick as it used to for some of us.
Yeah, some of us.
So the hair
yeah.
cutting kind of gets to, you can push it out to 6 weeks sometimes,
Yeah,
and
well,
it's not
it
as
gets out of
bad.
control. My hair gets out of control.
Hey, I'm on borrowed time.
Yeah.
All the men in my family go bald by like 40, 45.
Yeah.
So you're doing pretty good.
Right?
Yeah.
I have bald and gray. On one side of my family's gray, and the other side of my family goes bald. So yeah. I had a cousin who was pretty much gray shortly after he graduated.
It's,
Wait, high school or
happens.
college?
Yeah, high school.
Oh,
Yep.
wow.
Yep. I would say within 3 years after graduating high school, he was pretty much gray.
I also had
Crazy.
an individual I graduated with that was going gray in high school.
I think I might have found gray hairs when I was in high school, but I wasn't there
Say,
yet.
I'm going gray, but I'm teaching high school.
Yeah, well, look back when I started teaching middle school until now, I'm a lot more grayer. But then I had kids too.
Mm-hmm.
Kids will do it.
Will do it.
That's
Yep.
right. Well, I don't know about you guys. Do you guys use a salon or do you use a barber?
Barber.
I go to a barber here in town.
Okay. I had barbered always since I was just a little kid. My grandfather took us. It was a ritual. Every month we go get our hair cut. It was just a great memory with them. And so I was always going to be a barber, get my hair cut.
Ah.
And I had a friend that went to this. It's a barber shop, but man, do they treat you nice. These ladies wash your hair,
Oh.
they style your hair.
Wow.
I'm telling you what, once I went there, I'll never go back.
Huh,
It was wonderful.
man.
So sometimes, you have to try new things because it might be good.
When I was younger, I used to go to places like that. My dad and stepmom, that's where I went. But then I don't know, I've been to all of them. Yeah. Then, well, my middle daughter actually cuts hair, but she doesn't cut my hair. She would if I asked her, but then she's got to bring all of her stuff home, and it's kind of so. This is easy for me to go down to Ty's Clipper Shack.
See, growing up, I went to a place where it was like three guys just cutting hair all day long, and it was like the stereotypical barber shop.
Yep. Yeah.
And then two of them died out because, like, when I started going, they were in their 70s.
Oh, geez.
Went all the way through up until almost I graduated college, and then they sold the place, it closed down and all that. And then I was doing like mediocre clips for several years, and then just recently a new place opened up that's like that same old place again, and there's just a feel about the place, and I love going there.
Yeah, that's why I like going. I go. You can walk in. So if I walked in the door and there was 4 people ahead of me, I may have a 20-minute wait at the most. That's how fast this guy cuts the hair. I mean, it's crazy, but it's the old school, kind of the gossip. It's funny because the guy's he's really into conspiracy theory. So every time you go, some conversation will come about something, he'll get talking. Well, so it's funny. He's really big into conspiracy theories. So
well, and that's the thing, you don't really go other places where guys are just talking like that.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah, it's a good thing.
Yep.
Yeah, it is an experience. You're right. And it is the place to get all of the dirt in town, and the barber knows everybody somehow, or at least knows about everybody.
Oh yeah. Well, the guy that I go to, he bought it from a guy who had, been the barber in Coopersville for 50 years, and then he retired, and then this guy came in because he's from a family of hair cutting people, and he actually fits in really well. He's been here now, I want to say, he's been here probably for over 20 years now.
Wow.
But in the same, and it looks the same as when Norm owned it. It's the same inside, basically. It's awesome. The same chairs, everything.
That's a wild experience in my mind. Just being like having one person cut your hair for 30, 40 years.
Yeah.
But having that person do the majority of the town.
Yeah.
I mean, I can go in a 5-mile radius and have, I don't know, 7 or 8 different hair salons, barbers, whatever. And that's the problem though, but you have so much choice and nobody really, the cream doesn't rise to the top, if
Right.
you will.
But when you find a place like my daughter, she has, because she works for a major chain, but
Mhm.
it's a franchise of a family that people that own some around the state. And she has regulars though. She has people that come in and she always cuts their hair. Every once a month or every 2 weeks, guys come in and get their hair cut. And so yeah, it's one of those walk-in, but you also can set up appointments. So yeah.
Nice.
I've always said barbers are like doctors. When you find a good one, you don't
Yeah.
want them to retire and you don't want to move because you don't want to find a new
Yeah.
one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And they're both a lot like teachers because how often you see teachers teaching into their 70s and
Yeah.
used to be even into their 80s, you
Or
know,
they have the whole
Yeah.
family come
Of
through.
teachers. Yeah.
right.
Or whole family. Yeah, that's like, I'm a teacher family. We've got, I think I'm the 3rd generation now. We've got 10 active or 10 teachers in my family or that are either active or retired right
Oh,
now.
wow.
Yeah.
See, mine wasn't a teacher family. My dad how he ended up in education was he lost his company, moved out back in the early 80s. Companies were moving, times weren't the best back then. Well, you guys wouldn't know, you weren't around.
Hey, I was born in 77. Thank you.
Oh, all right.
I know.
77. Let's see. I was
Things were
what,
tight.
like 6th grade or something by then, or I don't know. But then the company they moved out and he didn't move with them, so he had he got a severance, but then he went back to Mesquite Community. He actually went to Mesquite Community, and originally I wasn't going to be a Chippewa. I was actually going to be a Bronco, because my dad that's where he was going to go to get his education degree from after he transferred from Muskegon Community.
Is that
But
Western?
yep, I was going to go to Western because they really had a big program at that time, and they pushed it. At that time, Western was really big in pushing it. And when it push come to shove, Western said no to a bunch of classes. They weren't going to accept the class. So then he looked at Central, and Central took everything. So that's why he went to CMU. And then my stepmom, obviously, she went there too. And then that's why I ended up at CMU, is because I knew they would take all of my credits from Muskegon Community. So that's why I ended up there. And then, yeah, we ended up being a kind of an education family.
It's funny how that works.
Yeah. I mean, but education wasn't where I was headed when I graduated high school. It wasn't. I wasn't one of those people who graduate and I'm going to go be a teacher. That was not. I went to Mesquite Community, and I was actually studying industrial engineering at Mesquite Community, which now I think would be like a process engineer. I think they would call it now.
Oh, they still have industrial engineers.
Yeah, but it's Geneva, but at community, they don't even call it that at the community anymore. They call it a different, it's more, I'm trying to think, more like what I would have been studying is, okay, we got this part, we got to make it. How are we going to make it? That's where I would have been. So, and then education. Yeah, it just kind of went that way. I guess I just kind of followed. I didn't. So, but yeah, so when I graduated high school, I wasn't going to be teaching was not in my resume, I guess you could say, forecast.
Pete, that's how it was for me. I wasn't planning on going into teaching. I was doing IT work during college and looking at, pretty well through a mechanical engineering degree. And I was working for an IT company doing systems install and database work for them. And I was making good money. They were sending me around because I was one of the few people didn't have a family. I could be on a flight by 8 p.m., a red eye back for classes Monday morning, Sunday evening.
Yeah,
And I mean, it did great for me financially, but I didn't have any fun. I wasn't
right.
enjoying anything. And I was like, well, I don't know what I'm going to do. I don't necessarily want to do this. Finished up that degree, then did my teaching degree because I got into the field for a little bit and just hated it. So then I love teaching. I mean, I'm that dopey teacher that actually enjoys coming in early and getting
That's
stuff
me.
done. You
That's
know,
me.
I don't know. I think that's indicative of industrial arts teachers. We like because we are our own, like there's not anybody to help us out. We're usually in departments of one, maybe two. Um, we have to do everything. And you either love it or you burn out from it or wash out.
Yeah,
Um, I think getting more people in and people coming from industry, no offense to anybody that does that, but it's a different path than when you start right away.
yes, it is.
I think that like there's a different passion there.
Yeah, you're correct. I'm one of those teachers. I can get into the school at 5:30. There are mornings I get there at 5:30, but I'm usually there by 6 o'clock. But I don't stick around a lot of times late, usually an hour after school.
Okay.
And due to the fact that I live close enough to my school, sometimes I'll go up there even later in the evening or something to do something, get something that I knew I needed to get done and I didn't have time and during the day. So yeah.
So I get, I mean, I'm about half hour from my school. So usually I'll bring stuff home and work on it in the garage shop
Right.
in the evenings and whatnot.
Yeah. See, I'm 2 miles.
Oh,
I think I'm roughly close to 2 miles. I think it's pretty close to that. So yeah.
I was also the high school graduate that was like, well, I need to go to college because I'm told I need to. And that's where I ended up at CMU eventually because like, oh, I got a couple scholarships, it's close to home, that type of thing. But that first semester or first year anyway, when I took I think it was Doc Lutz's drafting class, and I was like, wow, this is kind of fun. I actually kind of enjoy this. I wonder what I can do with this. And he was heavily recruiting for people to go into teaching. So that's when I started trying it out and taking more classes. And I said, this is what I want to do. I really want to help people. And then, as a teacher, it was just the passion of wanting to give every opportunity for those students to learn and grow and experience. And I realized they weren't going to, most of them weren't going to, go into industry of some sort, but at least to have that experience where they've changed out a light socket or a duplex outlet.
Right.
They've played with some plumbing, they've changed a tire or they've seen a tire change, they've looked at a small engine, they've replaced a spark plug. The things that we do every day or could do every day as just general people in society that may fall into the things that we do through the shop, those are the experiences I wanted the students to have.
Yeah.
So the passion to give them just life experiences they may never have had, and then to build off the ones that the students coming in had already done, saying, "Oh, I've done that before," and then, well, let's show us how to do it, so that they could see their peers doing it. Those were fun. That was good times.
I guess for me too, I mean, I don't want to say an at-risk kid or something like that, but I was that kid who was smart, but didn't give two craps about school, like high school when I was in it. I just wanted to make the grade so that my folks stayed off my back and then go do something I was interested in. But like my shop classes, they were the one thing I actually enjoyed doing and was good at. And I wanted to bring that to kids because I saw my experience, and also having teachers tell me I wasn't smart enough to graduate high school and some other stuff, that really stuck with me. But I had a couple of cool teachers that said, don't listen to them. You're doing this stuff. You'll find a career doing it, and you'll make something of yourself. And to me, that was a big thing.
All right, can we take a pause here a minute, guys? Because I got to put something in the mailbox for somebody, and I want to come back off of what you said, Dave, because a lot of what you said.
Oh, crap. There we go.
All right, we're back. Hey, so just kind of, we had both of you had said, about going in industrial arts and all that. And earlier I had said education wasn't my thing that I was seeing, but being somebody who graduated in the mid 80s, college was, but at the same time, it really wasn't a big push at that time. There wasn't, at least I don't, maybe there was, but I don't remember it being a big push. So, but I kind of knew growing, I'd probably go to college because I had an uncle, there was some people in my family who had went, my dad's side of the family, not my mom's side, but my dad's side, who had went off to Ferris and stuff, automotive and other things. So it was there. So yes, I had that, but two, at the same time, I also was a sped kid through school. But when I got to high school, my dad and stepma said, no, you're going to sink or swim. So I had to swim. And I swam. Did I swim well? No, I can swim well, but no, I didn't at that, I did. I got through school. I was not the A-B student. I was the C-D student, F here or there. I repeated English the first semester of English 9, my sophomore year. So I'm not gonna say, I was not the top of the 75 kids in my graduating class. No, I was the bottom half of those 75 kids, where I should actually go back and look at that sometime and see where I ended up. But, so I had a counselor, basically tell me kind of the same thing that you were told, Dave, the school counselor, actually. So the day that after I graduated from, Central, and I was able to sub, the look on his face when I walked back in to sub, that was priceless. That was very priceless. But two, I look back at growing up and being that rural kid / farm kid, I had farm family on both sides of my family that farmed a little bit, and my grandpa on my dad's side had a pig farm, and I was always working on that, and we were always fixing our own stuff. So in a way, the industrial arts field was a perfect mix if I was going into education, because I had lots of just common sense knowledge of doing things. So yeah, and I always find it amazing too, like Josh was saying, like, because I have younger kids, I have 6th, 7th, and 8th graders, and kids that have never done something. I'm thinking, I was changing a spark plug when I was 6 years old because I had a mini bike or a snowmobile, It's, and the number of kids nowadays that I see in my program that don't have that is quite amazing sometimes. So yeah, industrial arts, it fits me. If I probably wasn't an industrial arts teacher, I think of myself being somebody as a maintenance guy, just because of the vast knowledge that I have of just little things. I mean,
well, it's interesting you say that, Pete, because so my family, my dad grew up on a farm, and I had a lot of every summer we were up there staying or screwing around with something. And then during the rest of the year, it was always building something around my house, or growing up, it was helping my dad do brake jobs or whatever maintenance, because he didn't want to pay somebody $400-500 for a really easy thing that he could do. And he went a different route. He was the farm kid, but he ended up going through school to get a PhD. Right. He was a very his family pushed education and intelligence very hardcore. His sister is an MD and PhD. Wow. And so you know, it wasn't for me, there wasn't a question if I was going to college or not. It was more of a, what are you going to study? And I mean, for a long time, I was even looking at doing the military,
Uh-huh.
because I just didn't want to do college, but I was like, okay, fine, whatever, I'll get a degree. Um, and you know, but it was still that love of tinkering and fixing stuff and building things that never left me.
Yeah.
And I think at some point, like, kids are interested when they're little in that stuff, but I don't want to say we beat it out of them, but we say go do other stuff. And I guess I never lost that, and I love it. I mean, even now I'm still always doing some kind of maintenance thing around the house or whatnot. Like last night I was trying to figure out why my SES light went on, and well, it just turned out my coolant was a little low. So
Other
you know,
question is, why is your coolant low? And now that's another mystery to figure out.
Right, yeah.
oh no, that's not a mystery. That's a, I don't want to spend the
Oh.
what, $3,000 to have the head gasket replaced because it shrinks a little bit in the cold weather.
Gotcha.
Okay.
Just keep it warm all the time. Just let it run all day. And
Yeah.
Yeah, if you can figure out how to do that. Oh, did we lose Josh here?
He froze. He
Uh-oh,
froze up.
there he is.
sorry, I think my children are running the microwave.
Oh.
That's awesome.
Mhm. Messes with it every time. Locks my whole computer up.
Oh, that's funny.
So working from home, like I have been for the last 18 months, that's been interesting.
Yeah.
Huh.
Little sign on the microwave: do not use unless you check with the parents first. Yes.
Uh-huh.
Hmm.
Should we wrap your computer in like brass fabric?
I was gonna say, yeah. do we
If that
need to-
works, I would be
do-
happy. Maybe just wrap the microwave in brass fabric.
Yeah, maybe. Do we need to put up a lead wall somewhere or something? Go to the tire store and get all the lead weights. Or just pour them in your wall, you know,
That's
heat them
not a
up.
bad idea.
Pour them down your wall cavity.
And it'll be hurricane proof.
Yeah,
Mhm.
of course. You might become an environmental hazard site, but hey.
Over time, it might leach, but I'll be dead and gone by then. I'll be all right.
It's back to the old days of lead paint.
Right.
Yep. Yeah.
Oh, that's a good idea. I should just go find some lead paint and paint my walls, and I'll be okay.
It might keep the rodent
Yeah.
infestation down.
That-
though.
That's true. If I keep the kids in control, that's the next problem.
Oh, yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
not going to comment there.
You guys are the one with young children. I'm not.
Yeah, you're on to grandkids now.
Mm-hmm.
Fun times begin.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah, that's really to me the best part because you can have fun with them and then give them back.
Well, yeah, but when they live with you, it's
Oh yeah.
not for long though. They'll be moving out next January. So,
Awesome.
but she'll still be here a lot. They're still staying in town. So, then my wife will
Nice.
still get her after when she gets out of work, and so
Mhm.
she'll still be with us a lot. Just won't be staying the nights as much.
You know, that's funny you say that because one thing I do believe multi-generational families are very good for children. And I believe studies, they do play that out, that is true. But I lived across from my grandparents my entire life. And I can count on one hand the number of times I spent the night at their house. So, you know, it's like you said, they're going to be,
Yeah.
they'll be over all the time, but at least they'll have a place to go home to. I lived
Yeah.
across the road and I didn't spend the night there, you
Yeah.
know, like go home to your parents, get out of here, you know, that kind of a thing. So they would have all their fun, you know, hanging out with me and then be like, go back home. We're done
Right.
with you.
Hey, I don't remember spending many nights at my grandparents. Well, I did on my mom's side because my mom and dad got divorced and my mom lived there for a while. So when I would for weekends, I obviously was there. So, but yeah, but not just stay the night. I never didn't do that a whole lot.
See, I have 3 cousins who are all boys, and on my mom's side of the family. And from, let's see, up until I was about 14, we all lived within 5 miles of each other. And so it was like we were at somebody's house causing some kind of trouble. And our grandparents lived within that radius too. So sometimes the moms would drop all 5 of us off there and just leave for like 2 hours. But that was great because like my grandfather had a workshop. And so we'd be tinkering around with something. We'd be pulling
Yeah.
lumber out of there and building something or getting into some sort of trouble. And then they moved away for about 4 or 5 years because my uncle worked for a company overseas somewhere. I don't remember. But then it was like back once we all got into high school, they moved back, and once again, we fell right into the same routine. And it was like it was really an interesting thing. And even now, we've all kind of scattered to the four corners of the earth, but we still talk to each other at least once a week.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, it's really having those family ties, I think, is an important thing as well.
I find it interesting that all three of us, because I grew up on the farm, I find it interesting that all three of us had some kind of experience where we were tinkering with something, we were allowed to explore, we were allowed to create, we were allowed to build, we were allowed to be inquisitive, as children. And I think that's interesting how that plays into our stories now as to where it took us. And I wonder, just across the board, it'll be interesting to find out through this podcast series that we do how many other industrial arts teachers that we know that are in mites have similar experiences where they were just allowed to be inquisitive children. And that's one of the things that, for middle school, I really hope as we go forward in time that we allow our middle schoolers to be more just exploratory, because I just from my own experiences in middle school, we were given some exploratory classes, but what's 9 weeks, and then nothing. The kids are like, oh, that's interesting. Oh, okay, moving on to something else, and never really get to say, oh, I really like that. I want to go farther down that road. So I think as industrial arts teachers and teachers of the non, core classes, we have that opportunity to give students the ability to explore and learn in ways that are just more of a natural inquisitive learning pattern for them, so that they can see what they like to do or see what interests them, outside of just the standard things you do need to know, and helps for life experiences in general.
Yeah, well, you know what?
Yeah.
To the audience, drop a comment down below about what influenced you as a kid that brought you into industrial arts or into education. We'd love to hear it and start some conversations about that.
That's funny you say it, because at my school, was it 5 through 8 was in the same building. It was actually I was actually in middle school in 5th grade. We were actually switching class. We had a hallway, but we would actually go to, math teacher, art, science and all that. And then we had, this was way back in the 80s, we had home ec and we had an industrial arts class, and they were all 9 weeks. But I want to say my 7th grade year, because back then budget cuts and money was a big thing, and it actually went away. So I didn't have anything. I only had it, I believe, my first 2 years, a small little shop class and a home ec class and an art class in middle school. And then in high school, obviously, we had a metal shop, a wood shop, automotive, and all that. So
See,
yeah.
home ec classes were a big thing for me back in middle school and high school. I took all of the shop classes, but also the cooking classes and home ec stuff because I loved to do it. I mean, I had an ulterior motive. I was like one of 2 guys in them usually, but that is what it is. But I think it's exploring our various interests,
Yeah.
especially as kids. I don't know that we have told kids to do that. I think we're doing that more recently with younger kids, but I don't know that was really done in the past.
Yeah, I actually I wish we still had home ec. I mean, it was that to me, that would be the, my class and home ec class would be the top two classes in the school. I know they would be if they still, I don't, yeah. And it's, to me, the home ec is something that is just as much of a skill as we teach even,
Yep.
Just-
And even if you don't go into a
Yeah,
field related to it, it just
Yeah.
makes you a better person.
yes. And yeah, and like what we teach, I do get frustrated at sometimes. And I guess I'm going to rephrase this. I have seen what Josh had talked about earlier, because the three of us grew up tinkering and doing things and being creative.
Mhm.
That is something I have seen in my 20 years, is the creativity go downhill. It's from when I first started, because when I first started getting phones were just coming onto the scene. I mean, maybe 10% of the kids had phones, if that even. Then over the years now, 10% of the kids don't have phones. But the creativity is not, and thinking something through, going, what is causing this not to do? They can't. That's something that I feel I see happening a lot more.
Yeah.
I feel like we have a lot of kids who are like, well, I need the answer now. Well, you have to figure it out. What is going on? What are some of the, look at it.
Well, you know what, Pete, though, as a ray of hope, I'll say, so my second years in my engineering and CAD class, both were asking me, when do we get to design our own project? And I was like, that's great. We're going to probably be doing that beginning of second semester.
Right.
But there are the kids who've already had me for a year and know what we do. And so I think it kind of, like, they've had the spark reignited in them. And the question is, how do we do that in more and more kids?
Yeah. Yep. So that is true.
So Pete, you switched between two different cups there. Is there something special in one of your cups?
No, the one was empty.
Oh.
Well, the one I had to use when we started, because my granddaughter was sleeping in our room, and that's where my big cup was at. Well, she was up when we took our little break, and I came back, and yeah. So the one was empty. There's no water in it anymore. No. And I grabbed the big one. So yeah. Yep. So there's nothing special in between the two.
Well, if it was earlier in the day, it'd be coffee, but today, we're doing this a little later in the day, so it's water for me now.
Mine too is water.
Yep. I was already up early this morning. I had to take my son to EMU.
Yeah.
So just give a shout out to them. They have an honors band where they have students from around the state and high school come and audition. And so that was really cool to be able to take him down there. So he's spending the weekend. He's, learning with them, and he's going to perform tomorrow at 3:00.
Cool.
So yeah, so that was exciting to be able to do that. But that was my first time actually to Eastern. I've never driven there before. I've been to U of M, but never over to Eastern. And so that was like, oh, this is really cool, And then you drive by Washtenaw Community College, and I said to him, I said, look at this. You have, for people who live in this area, you got 3 fabulous schools, like all right next to each other within a few miles.
Did you go the back way or down the main road?
We got off 23 on Getty's, I think, and then took around that way.
Okay.
and then drove by the main campus of Washtenaw.
Yeah,
So,
you went the back way.
Whatever
Nice.
way Google took us, that's the way we went. Because I've never been there before. I had no idea.
Me neither. I've never been there either.
You know, I'll say the one thing I never liked about Eastern is you can't get anywhere easily because none of the roads go straight and they're all like one ways.
Uh-huh.
I noticed there was a lot of curvy roads around there. I was like, yeah, this is
Was that
interesting.
Alexander Hall?
I don't even know where I dropped him off at. I just
Oh, fair enough.
I was
Well,
following
what kind of
cars.
a father
Yeah.
are you? You just, hey, here
Just
you go,
tuck and
son,
roll.
son.
We-
You know,
We caravanned, and when the teacher says, "Oh, we're good to go now," I'm like, "Okay, see you later."
see ya.
You know, in typical teenage fashion, he didn't even say goodbye to me. I yelled at him. I said, "Josiah, goodbye," and he just kept walking away. And I'm like,
As far as
"Mhm."
you know, he's at some U of M frat party right
He
now.
could be. This could be a whole front for. So tomorrow when I go pick him up and they all make a funny little concert, I'm like, "Oh, I know what you were doing this weekend. You weren't really practicing."
Oh.
It seems to be legit. We'll see. Yeah, but
Cool.
that was my early morning experience today. So
Wow.
that was fun.
That's a good little stretch for you to go
No
that
kidding.
early in the morning.
Yeah, it was that was my coffee time. So that was just all to say that was my coffee time. Now is my water time. Don't want to stay up too late tonight.
Oh,
See,
I'm an evening coffee drinker. I'll have it like up until like 10 o'clock at night and then sleep like a baby.
Is that a sign that you drink too much coffee that your body doesn't even react to it anymore?
I've got back. I don't measure it in pots anymore.
Oh, when I was teaching, I lived on coffee when I was teaching. It was an absolute necessity. And I never thought to go buy myself my own pot. So I'd always have to walk from, of course, where's the shop, the very farthest corner of the building, all the way down to the office, which was on the opposite corner of the building. So it was like race in between classes or race down there during your prep time to fill up your mug. And so at least I got exercise that way, I guess. That was good.
I have my own. I have a 20-ounce Yeti that I make 2 of them every morning. I mean, obviously I get there at 6, so I make one then, and then usually maybe about 8 or 8:30, depending on. I'll have two a day. That's about it.
Oh, nice.
So,
Do you guys do any fun stuff with your kids, like grill breakfasts or do lunches or things like that for special events for your students?
I have in the past. I haven't been doing them lately. But like we've all one, I mean, like this right here, this was designed by a student. And then our graphics program made them. And so we do a contest for that. And then I give the kids a t-shirt and a sweatshirt every year.
Cool.
And then we've done like a pancake kind of breakfast where we just get together one morning before school and have pancakes for breakfast and just kind of sit around and chat.
well, now because I make my 7th graders, because we make the pizza peels. So and they'll be done here after Thanksgiving. Kids will have them finished. So if they want to have pizza, we'll have, bring in your frozen pizza, or if you want to try to make one, you can. And because I have an oven, I actually have 2 ovens that I have access to, so you can use your pizza peel. That's
Awesome.
a big thing. The kids like that when we do the pizza
Nice.
thing. So that, for breakfast we'll have pizza, and and I've done, it's kind of funny because I think back 10 years, more than that, probably 12 years ago or so, I had a group of kids that they would come to my room at lunchtime. And then at one point we started grilling. So one day we're cooking steaks. We had steaks for lunch. And of course it's going down outside, because my prep was awesome because I had a prep hour and then my lunch. It was kind of either side. So it worked out perfect. So yeah, we're grilling steaks. We'd grill hot dogs or make hamburgers one day. Usually once a week we grilled something. A kid would bring something in, I would bring something in. So yeah.
See, the big one we also do is we do candy bars. Like we make them. So they'll 3D print or carve a positive buck, and
Okay.
then we'll vacuum form around them and do like 6 in a sheet,
Yep.
and then talk about chocolate as a crystalline ceramic material and how you temper it and to get the nice smooth texture and things like that. And then we'll pour candy bars, and kids take home 4 or 5 of them.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
That's cool.
See, once again, it's all about like where can we insert the curriculum into the interests the kids have?
Right.
And it's about like I have a group of kids making birdhouses because they were talking about like ecology, and we're tying it into our environmental science class. So yeah, it's just putting in some fun back in school and getting them excited about learning.
You know what you just said, though, I feel I like doing that, and I always try to get that, but it never works out because it feel like all these other classes have to meet certain things, and it's hard. There's so many things that the science, when they're doing things that could have happened in my class.
Mm-hmm.
But then the other problem is the kids, like the 8th graders, they had to do it was like a cooler project. They like a Yeti cooler thing they call. I don't know. The kids were, and they had to come up with materials and make a cooler that held. I don't know. It had to hold the ice for so long and any materials. And shoot, the one kid, he spent like $90 at Menards. And he goes,
Wow.
yeah. All of a sudden, he goes, when we added it up, is like, wow, we really, because he just got thinking of this and that. But I think to myself, that could have been something that those kids could have done in my shop class. But the other problem is I only have one group of 8th graders, and there's close to 200 8th graders in our building. So obviously it wouldn't have worked out, but it couldn't work out. So because there's only one of me, and so yeah. But I always feel like in the world of education, we don't utilize stuff like that. We don't take, and yeah, I don't know, I'm lost for
No,
words
you know what,
with it.
Pete?
I can't
think,
think of what I want to say, but
well, I think you're onto something. I mean, I think as teachers in general, we're in our classroom, our silo. We very rarely, even when you have the bigger departments, we don't always look outside of what we do to what others are doing.
right.
And they say they want us to collaborate, but we aren't necessarily given time for it or resources.
No.
And that's, I mean, like when I've collaborated with other programs, that's when I've gotten the biggest bang for my buck. I'm lucky I have science classrooms along the entire other side of my hallway. So like when we do trebuchets, I actually do it with the physics kids.
Right.
And the physics teacher teaches trajectory then. And like speed and velocity stuff I have taught in the past, but they're better at it than I am.
They're better at it. Yeah.
I mean,
correct.
But
correct.
Learning to collaborate and trying to plan ahead, that's the hard part. But when you can, I think that's where it's gold right there.
But I think the biggest problem we have is within our educational system. Our system is the problem.
Yes.
I think, and that's the thing that'll be a whole nother podcast.
Mm-hmm.
What I feel about our education, but yes, I feel we're restricted in too many ways to do things. But it was, in some cases, it's just too hard to do. It'd be easy, and I think it would be easy to do, but it's just not.
I think it also depends on who you're working with. Once again, we have a couple of teachers who would rather ask for forgiveness than permission. And I'm of that same mindset. And so we just kind of make it happen, which is really cool. I know not everybody has that view of things. Like they're worried about their evaluations. But I mean, I guess my opinion is if it's good for kids and they're learning from it, it's going to be a win-win for everybody.
Yes.
I don't care about my evaluation. I just do what I think is the best for kids, and so far it hasn't bit me in the behind
Right.
so far.
One of the things that I did when I was teaching, I was very blessed that our campuses were really close together. So, all of the middle school, the elementary and whatnot, everything was really close. And my mom was actually working in a Young Fours GSRP program. Shout out to GSRP. And so her and her teacher that she was working under said, "Hey, Kate, what can we do with Josh in the shop to bring the 4-year-olds in and give them some experience?" And so we actually did some things where the kids would come over. I would recruit some of my students to come down and give them passes to come down and help. And these 4-year-olds just ate this up. I mean, they loved it. And it wasn't anything more than they had to drive nails and things like that. But it was just that experience. And those kids talked about that for days. My mom would say just days later of the things that they learned. And they got to take something home. So like we did something for Mother's Day and they would take home something for mom and stuff like that. But anytime we can get a cross-curricular interaction going on, it builds the bridges of learning. And that is something that I was working on too. And I encourage anybody to take that opportunity to take a step back and look at what ways can you collaborate, like Dave, with the physics teachers and such. What ways can you collaborate? Because and in what ways can you get your administration to promote the collaboration? That's the key, right? The key is getting the people that are in charge and setting the schedules and things saying, hey, we need some flexibility here so we can do the collaboration. Because what are you going to do with all of your students when the science kids come to your room, or the English kids come to your room, or the math kids come to your whatever? What are you going to do when you have that? So you have to have some way. And it would be nice to be able to have almost offset hours where you would be able to do that collaboration more, and you didn't jam pack every single hour with as many kids and as much teaching as you can. Give them, again, some exploratory, some cross-curricular time. It would be an awesome to see some districts trying hybrid models like that.
Yeah, but you know what? Oh, go ahead, Pete.
I think what you're saying, what I think though, it wouldn't put me out of a job. And what you're saying, and I could see it, and I might even enjoy it, is that where my shop, I don't teach an actual class. I'm, at some point, there's always a group of kids, whether it be the math kids, because of what they're doing, they're coming down to the shop and they're building something that they're learning in math, or the science, the trebuchets and stuff like that. I feel like you would almost have to have a shop teacher that's open, that does not have a class, because that's that's the only way it would work in my building, because I don't have an open I have an open lab period, but that's my prep. But then maybe there's not a math class that hour because the math teacher's on that same prep, so that's where
or a math teacher being comfortable taking your shop kids for an hour, and you literally trade classes. And maybe that's the day where they're having to, like, the shop kids are writing up something about their project, and I'm taking the math kids and doing a shop activity with them. That I think I mean, personally, I know of maybe 4 core teachers who would be comfortable taking kids into a shop and knowing the safety stuff and being comfortable doing that. I don't know that I would be comfortable, just because I'm not comfortable with anybody that's not me running my shop. Well, there's one person, but I don't know. I think it's more of my comfort zone, and making sure that if somebody else is going to be doing stuff, and because to me, I think of it as my shop. And I kind of think we all do. I know it. I don't own it or anything, but it's kind of like we invest so much of our ourselves into it, into our shops to make them operate and maintain them, that we don't ever get paid for or thanked for or anything like that. We just want the best for our students. So I think it's stepping out of the different comfort zones.
Well, guys, I have to leave because
Yes,
I have to watch my granddaughter because my wife has to take her mother in to get a test.
okay.
Right.
And we're coming up on an hour anyway.
Yeah, I
which
was
I
gonna
think
say,
was
we've-
about twice
I
as
think-
long as we
Yes, I
had
think it
wanted.
is. So I think we need to keep going though. I think we're on a good
Mhm.
little thing.
Yeah.
So we can always come back, kind of listen to what we listen to so we know where to pick up when we
Yep.
meet back up. We could do that.
Sounds good. Well,
That sounds good to me. I thought this was fun.
this was a lot of fun.
Holy cow.
Yeah. Thank you everybody for joining us.
Yeah.
We will see you guys in the next episode.